This is one of the three pillars of the planned urban partnership by the urban transitions. Okay, now, yep. Next to downsizing district donuts and the unit cities that has been explained to you and can be downloaded at several locations on the JPI website. The positive energy district pillar is a bit different because it has some history. It came from a cooperation between Set Plan Action 3.2 smart cities and JPI Urban Europe, and was kicked off already 2 years ago. So we do have already some results. There was already also a first pilot call on positive energy districts. The challenge for us now is how to integrate that pillar in an effective, useful way into the larger setting of this driving urban transitions partnership. And this is quite an exciting time. The aim of the session is today, I will shortly give you some background information on the PED concept, on the PED concept, and sharing some insights from the public consultation, stakeholder dialogues we had so far, and the focus group workshops. And I will raise at least 3 of some major discussions we are facing regarding positive energy districts. And this we are going to discuss with our distinguished panel, which I would like to introduce. Welcome right away. First of all, Petra Schöffmann from Urban Innovation Vienna. Then we have Henry Horn from the city of Espoo. And we have Jiří Tenča from Smart PSEC. Welcome and thank you for joining this session. My name is Christoph Gollner. I'm a coordinating program manager of the PED program, and I will have support from Elena Simeon. If you have any questions or any comments, please just write in the chat. Elena will check on that and give it back to the panel, to me, to keep the discussion going. I would like to let you know that we're also using Mentimeter. So if you can, please have your phones ready, because we'd like to have your inputs as well, the audience. But now I would like to give the floor to Petra first for a short introduction on her connection to positive energy districts and all that.
Thank you very much. Welcome also from my side. My name is Petra Schöffmann, and I'm a senior expert at Urban Innovation Vienna. This company, so we are a part of Wien Holding and thereby indirectly owned by the city of Vienna. We work closely with the municipal department for energy planning together, and our role is normally that we work on the interface between the city, the politics, the energy supplier, the property developers, and also last but not least the research institutions. A few words maybe about the urban environment of Vienna. The city of Vienna has a population of about 1.9 million inhabitants. The heat is supplied in roughly equal parts by natural gas on the one hand and district heating. And both of them are supplied by Wien Energie, which is the main local energy supplier, and Wien Energie is also owned by the city of Vienna. The PED topic is definitely supported by the city of Vienna, and is seen as one part of the future urban development. And therefore, research activities were started under the name, we would translate it as Future Quarter, with the dedicated goal of implementing the first positive energy district in Vienna. And in this project, In the first part, the PED suitability of 6 new development areas in the starting of the planning phase was examined, and out of these 6, one with a high probability of implementation has emerged. This is a rather small neighborhood for Vienna, at least, with about 20,000 square meters gross floor area and a mixed use of residential and non-residential areas. And in the second part of this research activities, this project is now supported during the planning phase to guide it directly to become a positive energy district.
Thank you, Petra. Exciting ambition that you and Vienna are doing here. I would like to give the floor now to Henry from ESPO. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you very much. So my name is Henry Horn, and I work for the city of Espoo. Espoo is the second largest city in Finland, just next to Helsinki, the capital. We have about 300,000 inhabitants. Regarding energy, our largest need is heating, which also accounts for most of our carbon emissions. So Espoo is dominated by district heating. We have the largest Nordic utility, Fortum, which actually bought Uniper. You might have heard it in Central Europe. So Fortum is also responsible of supplying the households here with district heat. At the moment, there's still a lot of coal used in combined heat and power production, and coal is being phased out. So we have what is called Espoo Clean Heat, a deal between the city of Espoo and Fortum. They will first phase out the coal power plants by 2025, and then the remaining fossil fuel units, which are natural gas, by 2030. So by 2030, we will have basically all the households, the heating needs will be carbon neutral. There's some remote buildings might have oil heating, but even though those which are electrically heated, many are preferred to use geo energy, which is actually even cheaper than district heating. So even some buildings which are within the reach of the district heating network are now transferring to ground source heat pumps. In Espoo, we have a Horizon 2020 funded project called Sparks, which is developing positive energy districts. And this project has, the lighthouse city of Espoo. The other one is Leipzig in Germany. Then there's 5 other cities around Europe. And in Espoo, we are now focusing on 3 demo sites. 2 of them are shopping centers. One is already finished, and another one is being built. The one which is finished is served by district heating. The one which is being built now is served by geoenergy. So they have a 4 megawatt geothermal system, which is also serving for cooling in the summer, which will make them basically self-sufficient. And then the third demo site is a residential area, which is being planned now. It will be built within the next 10 or 15 years, and it's going to be home for 15,000 people. So these are 3 very different locations, which we all want to be positive energy districts. But well, let's see how we manage. I think I'll stop it here.
Exciting, thank you, Henry. And now to our unknown user, Jyoti from the city of Pisek. Can you please introduce yourself and your activity? Jyoti, I think you're still muted. We cannot hear you. On the top left, there is the microphone symbol. There should be a green light. top left, there is the microphone. Okay, there seems to be a technical problem. I hope maybe you can rejoin, and I will start with the with the inputs. Usually, maybe you have to re-enter again. Try that. Just to give you an overview, no, starting with the Menti first. Please have your phones ready, and just warm up questions for you, so we get to know also you as the audience here. The code is different from the plenary sessions because it's parallel now. 7747015. And the first question is again, from which city are you dialing in? As of now, we have 55. And it's always interesting to have the diversity of geography and also affiliations that are part of the discussions. Okay, most people are coming from Brussels, not so surprising. Oh, but still quite a good balance of different regional geographical areas of Europe. Lyon is represented in Austria. Great. I'll move on to the next question now. On your professional background again, just enter your affiliation. Because it's always interesting. What we're trying to do in all of the JPI Urban Europe programs is to really reach out to the city administrations themselves, but you know it's very hard to get them involved time-wise, etc. Usually, research and innovation is dominating the panels, the audiences, and that also seems the case here, which is fine. Because basically we are developing, and what we're discussing here aims at giving an input to research institution, to research and innovation, to give questions that should be answered, or could be answered also by research and innovation to move that topic forward. Thank you very much for this question now. Now to be a bit more specific, how would you rate the importance of the positive energy districts development for urban transitions? On one hand, regarding sustainable urban development in your city, and as one of the 3 pillars of the partnership. We have a 1 to 10 scale here. Interesting. I mean, the importance is rather high. I guess it also depends on what you include into that development. And in my opinion, especially interfaces between different pillars of the partnership would be very important to explore. Obviously, economic developments, mobility issues, very much related to the PED topic. That would be fascinating to do, to shape the interface between the 3 pillars. So, great importance, great ratings for the importance of the topic. And as a final question now, what is your current involvement in the PED topic, PED development? Are you basically interested but no active involvement currently? Do you have a on a more general level involved into the topic, or are you actually working in a specific program, project? Okay. Great. We have a slight majority and no current involvement, as I see it. Cool. But there's a strong interest, obviously. Gigi, can you try to talk again? That's a real problem. Cannot hear you. Maybe if you try to use a headset or something, because we heard you before. We'll have time to jump in again later, but we cannot hear you at the moment. So thank you for your inputs. Giving you a short background on what has been done recently in the PED program. There has been a lot of discussion on why are we discussing cities? Why are we having urban areas so much in focus? And there's an obvious reason. Urban areas are both part of the problem regarding energy consumption, carbon footprint, climate change, and of course are very much part of the solution. And positive energy districts aim a transnational ambition behind the positive energy districts program is to create a hub that supports driving the energy transition in the urban context, and now the vision is to integrate that into the urban partnership. As I said before, this is a project. The program has been developed as a cooperation between PED and JPI Urban Europe. The mission is to have 100 positive energy districts by 2025. The program was kicked off 2 years ago in October 2018. There is a strong focus on the cities themselves, on European positive energy districts as the key problem owners. We don't only have there's not only a quantitative mission of having 100 positive energy districts, but also to have the PED approach included into holistic urban development, into contributing to climate action and energy transition, to allow for and make synergies between different approaches and different diverse regional preconditions, and support themselves as problem owners achieving the goals of energy and climate action. So everything evolves around the cities, with focus on developing PED labs, PED guides and tools, a replication and mainstreaming strategy, and of course monitoring and evaluation. This illustration is from the implementation plan of Action 3.2. In the course of the program, there has been a lot of discussion on the framework definition for positive energy districts. We came up with a rather generic definition that needs to be operationalized in the local context. The basic goal is to focus on the three main energy functions: energy efficiency, energy flexibility, and energy production, and then start the calculating exercise. But optimizing these three functions is the key topic, what we're aiming for. And there are different ways to do that, and the local conditions play a big role to that. And I think the three cities we are having here will also make that clear. There are different approaches regarding that. I'm not going through the definition. You have slides provided after the session. The basic aim of the program is to develop a call agenda, creating projects that support the development of positive energy districts, but we're also very much focusing on involvement of stakeholders that help us to formulate a program that is really effective and addresses the needs of cities and other stakeholders. So we have a lot of activities in capacity building and consultation with other stakeholder groups. We have set up a city panel, a mobilization replication group, and a PED community. And there are several formats discussing topics. Clustering has. This is an overview of the clustering of the topics we have been discussed so far. On one hand, that's preparing the energy system for PEDs, integrated urban planning, governance, PEDs for people, and preparing mainstream replication. There is a concept board. We have a concept board developed to also get your input regarding specific topics. And I think if you can post the link in the chat. So to get a bit more into detail, we would love to have your inputs in the concept board regarding developing questions for research and innovation, support for implementation, and other things we might have been missing till now. First of all, I would like to raise the discussion on one of the key elements of the discussions so far, namely developing a stakeholder-oriented approach towards energy districts. There is a clear statement that positive energy districts require innovative governance, stakeholder involvement, and problem owners, solution providers, civic society might have different perspectives, interests, benefits. One of the key questions is how do we deal with these different stakeholder interests and communicate benefits to the different stakeholder groups? And I would like to hand over this question to Jiří, as who is now hopefully hear you now.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Ah, good.
Sorry. You can start with a very short introduction of yourself and then maybe respond to the question regarding the stakeholder involvement.
Yeah. So sorry for the technical troubles. My name is Jiří Tencár. I'm from Smart PSEC, which is the one of the basic departments of City of PSEC. And we're working now we are actually part of the Plus City Exchange, which is a positive energy block and district Horizon 2020 project. And we're trying to develop the PED and PEP. And we basically dealing a lot of with the stakeholders and the execution of all these ideas a little bit into reality. So the stakeholders are very important. We cannot be without them, but they are also very difficult to approach in some of the cases. And it's not only about to involve the society, the civic society, the citizens, which we don't have such a basically great experience. For example, the English-speaking countries, UK or Ireland have. So we don't have this habit of engage people. So there is not a big tradition in that. So we're learning it. We're learning ourselves. We're learning the society. But it's moving forward. City administration is another burden, I would almost say. It's however, even I'm a part of it. as the city is very complex environment with many different departments and many different interests and people working on their agenda. And with the smart city project, so we basically bringing some more work, which is not very often perceived very well. So it needs also very sensitive dialogue with these people, especially the people maybe from the investment departments and so on, to explain and to teach them. So this is, in case of PSEC, this is quite a work we did already. So we have on our side part of the department, but still there is some significant part of the department which are not on our side still, but we're working on it. Utilities, that's a big, I would almost say, trouble, because these are multinational companies. In the case of PSEC, we have the German E.ON here. And we, for example, when we were preparing the SECAP project, which is a Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan, we needed the data on the consumption, and we were not able to get the data from E.ON. The answer was because of the GDPR. When we overcome the GDPR, they said they don't have the technical equipment to provide the data. So this is another very, very, very crucial partner, and we still very struggling to get them on board and to get hold of data. That's very, very important. Real estate industry, we are not that much involved, because we at the moment working with basically all of our buildings which are involved in the project are in the ownership of the city. So for us it's a little bit simpler situation, but still it means, like, working with the city administration, which is basically in that position like real estate industry. But that I had my comments already.
Thank you, Jiří. Petra, as I heard from you, that the ownership structures regarding utilities and the real estate sector are obviously quite important. What's your impression on the importance of how the ownership structures affect the opportunities for stakeholder involvement of the big, like, utilities, real estate sector?
So, as I said before, in Vienna, for example, the energy supply utility is owned by the city, which does not mean that they do what the city wants, but it helps. And I think it has to be a little bit a push from the city side, and also a willingness from the rest, let's say. So we are currently trying to raise the requirements, the legal requirements on the building side. So what has a building to deliver, how efficient has it to be, and how much PV or whatever has to be installed. So then the level is higher, and at the end, everything is about money. As always, I think this is the main driver for the utility as well as for the real estate sector. And also for the city administration and the people, naturally too. So to make the requirements a little bit higher makes it easier to argue a little bit better standard, and then we are almost there, let's say.
Thank you.
Yeah, and when the ownership structure in the real estate area is very important, because then we come back to a lot of legal and regulatory barriers concerning who can deliver which energy, who is able to produce it, how can we count it, how can we sell it. The more owners there are, the more difficult it will become on the new build area, but especially in the existing area.
Yeah. Thank you. Henry, Petra was talking about the communicating the benefits, and it's all about money in the end. So is it basically about developing the right business models for the different stakeholders?
Yes, it's all about the money. Yes, I agree. And it's interesting. I've noticed with our Sparks project, the Horizon 2020 project, when we have 2 demo sites which are owned by a private company. Now, these are malls, shopping centers. They are centrally managed. They have some kind of a mastermind who knows exactly what they need energy for. They buy it from the utility. Yes, they buy both the heat and the electricity from the utility, but then they also install solar panels on the roof. They sell the electricity to the tenants, which are the shops, and they have electric vehicles. Both of our shopping malls also have a bus terminal, so they can also include the electric bus charging, and then they can participate in flexibility markets so that they can control the lighting, the air conditioning, which we call a virtual power plant. Now, this is profitable. I mean, it saves money, it saves energy, it improves the flexibility of the electric system. You can use sector coupling, meaning that you can switch from electrical to heating sector, and you can use the building structures, the thermal mass of the building to increase the flexibility, and it makes sense from an economic point of view, and the city doesn't have to do anything there. But when we go to the residential area, now we don't have any residents there yet. So who's going to pay for the district heating network? Who's going to pay for the mini grid if we want the mini grid? It's not going to be the utilities, because they want to make as much money. So they want to split up the residential area in small plots, which is each in a contractual agreement with a utility. And that will, in essence, make this prosumer model very difficult, because if you have somebody producing solar power and he's trying to use it all in his own small apartment, but the law doesn't allow him to sell it to the neighbor who's let's say on the neighboring plot. So that makes the prosumer model very, very difficult. And from economic point of view, it doesn't make sense for him to self-produce solar, just because it's not allowed to this peer-to-peer, what we would call a energy community, from a directive, the energy market directive point of view. It's not possible over the border. So in the end, the utilities will try to make their money from the customers, and having the customers produce their own power, and then selling it to the neighbors will reduce the amount of customers they have and the amount of energy they purchase. So we have a dilemma here.
Thank you to all 3 of you. I opened already the question also to the audience. Do you have experience, or how do you think we need to deal with different interests and needs regarding of stakeholders regarding PED development? How can we develop? What is necessary to develop a stakeholder-oriented approach? Just your comments on that right away. Yeah, targeted outreach and awareness raising. I think the whole aspect of awareness raising is one of the key aspects that needs to be considered in the first place, especially when it comes to setting up policies. Profits local. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you very much for this at the moment. I'll keep the meet open afterwards, so you can still post your comments on that here. Citizen involvement always first. That's one of the key aspects we always hear, because in the end it is important, and I think this opens up also what Henry said. gets even more difficult when you go to a residential area, because you have to be, even if people are not living there yet, but it gets even harder when you go to an existing to integrate that are already living there. Thank you very much for this input for now. I'll move on to the next question. Next key area that has been part of very intense discussion, because when we talk about a positive energy district, we're not thinking about a kind of autonomous area, that kind of self-containing entity producing and using its own energy. But the aim is to integrate positive energy districts in a regional system or national system, and also interconnect between different positive energy districts. So one of the key issues for PED development is how do we define the system boundaries? Are they physical boundaries, geographical boundaries? Are there virtual boundaries where you can touches on the whole topic of energy flexibility? How do we deal with a dynamic exchange between the local area and the regional area? So what are the challenges for defining the system boundaries of energy districts, including the regional perspective? I'd like to hear to start the question with Petra. What are your experiences? What's your perspective on that?
Yes, I think the main problem is rather obvious, because there are different stakeholders with different interests, and from a city point of view, each city has a different framework conditions. So the relationship between the existing and the new building areas, the potential of renewable energies, and so on. But I think that a clear definition is very important, and clear means also some kind of calculative definition, because on the one hand, to have a common image and a clear objective to go for, and on the other hand, it's also important for the money side again, so for the investors, to make the quality and consequently the value of the property and their development visible, and raise the value of it. And as I said before, there were two parts of our project, and in the first part of the project, we developed a definition for the urban environment, and as Mentomiti said, clearly we also did it together with the owners, so with the stakeholders, the relevant stakeholders, so the owners and the investors of the focus areas, and try to answer the question, what must and can a PED achieve in a densely built context? Because PED can't be the same everywhere, I think. And when I have a look at it, the classical, what is consumed over the year also must be produced locally over the year. This definition does not work for high building densities, so it does not work in very compact areas like a city, because there are technical and economic boundaries. And we therefore had the idea and developed a kind of, we call it a density factor, which means that urban districts have to produce a little bit less locally than they consume. But on the other hand, for less dense areas, such as rural areas, this means that these neighborhoods must produce slightly more locally than they consume, so that we calculated it for the whole of Austria, that over Austria we have a little plus, let's say. And the second challenge we came over, as you said before, the flexibility is the changing energy system in the future, because if the electricity production is become more volatile, then also the demand must become more flexible and react to this. So PEDs should therefore be able to react flexibly to the renewable energy peaks, and also be rewarded for this. So if a district takes this into account, there has to be another goodie, let's say, for them. And therefore, we thought that in our definition, that renewable electricity that is consumed at peak times can also be taken into account in the annual balance as renewable energy. And as we are supporting a real PED in the planning phase, we mainly were planning this via component activation, so large thermal storage masses in the building, as Henry just said. But we will also develop a flexible e-charging infrastructure and work also with other load shifting measures. And in this way, on the one hand, this will enable a grid. We think that this will enable a grid supportive operation on the one hand, but also on the other hand, it will maximize the own consumption of the locally generated electricity and thereby support the economic feasibility of the area of the investment.
Okay, thank you. Usually, in the positive energy, positive city exchange project, where PSEC is a fellow city, how is there an integrated approach towards how to deal with the regional system, how to deal with energy flexibility in that regard? Where do you see the challenges?
Yeah, back to the PET a bit and the PEP we have. I remember the big discussions last year of the definition, and definitely, as you mentioned, is the physical boundary or infrastructure boundary, which don't have to be the same. And exactly this is what we have been dealing with, and is it with the connection to the region. So, we're not building an island system. We are connected to the rest of the country. So we were thinking how to define, for example, our district or PEPs, and we went through that. There's basically two types of energy you need to deal with. It's the heat, where you need to heat the buildings, and the electricity for whatever use. And so we divided this in two parts. And as the city of PSEC is a rather historical city, or at least we're working with the buildings in the broader center of the city, so there is a lot of limits regarding the historic values, but also you are in a dense populated area where you cannot place for example, biomass or any other system. So you need to be working something without local emissions. Mm-hmm. And also PSEC has a local central heating plan, which is at the moment still running on coal, but it will be changed within 2 years either to biomass or a gas. So this we decided that to offset the heating demand locally is not feasible. It is not possible, really. So we're working that also the penetration of the central district heating is really high in PSEC. It's over 50%. So we're working that our local heating plant, if it will be changed, it will be quite renewable source. So this we are hoping that we offset the heating, and now we're working basically to offset the electric consumption, which is we mainly working with the schools. So there's the highest energy demand is in lighting. So we're working with mainly the PVs and the electricity accumulation and sharing the electricity between the buildings. That one building has a higher potential, has a bigger or larger roofs, so it can produce more. and this could be basically shifted to a neighboring building. So we have basically now, we're working with what I call a physical PED, positive energy block, and the virtual positive block. The physical one, that we have the physical grid, the wires, the buildings are connected. The virtual one, the buildings are more distant from each other. So basically there is no direct cable connection. So this we will be looking in the future for when all the legislation change, and that we can work with kind of energy community and working with the virtual operators and stuff like that. So that's how we tackling it.
Thank you very much. I'd like to give a short word also to Henry, and I think energy community is a perfect buzzword for him. But we also have the comment in the Mentimeter, and I want to remind the audience Mentimeter is open for that question again. Community concept, virtual neighborhood connected with blockchains for energy trading. Is a positive energy district possible if it's not a shopping center? In a physical sense.
In a physical sense.
Mm.
In Finland, I would say no. I mean, I'm very, very grateful to Petra for pointing out that the positive energy district in Finland, imagine when I look out, I mean, in the winter, the sun shines for 2 hours. Our heating demand or energy demand is 100 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. So that's double probably what you have in Central Europe. Not only the non-availability of solar power, but also the annual mismatch. So it's not enough to store energy for a few days. We need to store it for half a year. Well, if you use solar, of course, and solar is the number one choice for distributed citizen-centered energy. But at the moment, you have to consider that the Finnish system, which is dominated by wind. I mean, not yet, but it looks like our system, which is now 7 gigawatts, maybe 10 or 13 gigawatts. We have already 17 gigawatts in the pipeline of wind. And 70 gigawatts are being it's the possibility. So we might have 10 times more wind than our system currently has as its normal power. So I can see the future that we have like hundreds of hours per year when there's just an abundance of cheap wind in the grid. It doesn't make a point. I mean, we can try to make energy autark, self-sufficient PEDs in cities, but there's no point because it's much cheaper to have them use the free grid power when it's available. So we need to go for flexibility, and I think the flexibility, the storage option is much more important here than the self production. Of course, it's important as well, but from a total system balance point of view, the storage capability is probably key.
Thank you. There was one question in the chat. Do you see, and that's to all of you, maybe a short answer to that. Do you see any risk of gentrification regarding PED development, I guess?
Sorry, I didn't catch the word.
Do you see any risk of gentrification? That's the problem of upgrading an area where it's not inclusive anymore.
Not inclusive. I'm sorry, I don't understand this term now. Yeah,
gentrification, is it familiar? Petra, are you familiar with the term?
Yeah, I mean, the question is very important for Vienna because we have this this term of it would be translated like payable living. So it's a very important. We have a very high rate of social housing, and we deal very often with the question of, is this can we pay this in the context of social housing? And a few more steps, but I think yes. And from the other side, the city, at least the city of Vienna, helps there by some special funding. So if you go a lot above the regulatory requirements, then you get more funding. And I think there the funding is important because it's only the investment. And if you in social housing, the costs for the inhabitants are the most important thing, and they are very low because of the low prices for heating and electricity when it's produced renewable and mainly on site. So I think it could maybe work against it and support the lower social standard, let's say.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Maria, for the comment. And I think it's an important issue to keep in mind that especially which answer in the chat, some good discussion here. But I would like to move on now. I think the whole question of gentrification is important to keep in mind, and the whole issue of affordability and inclusiveness is an important one. As a third point, I would like to focus on the transformation phase. We all hear there are goals regarding 2030 or even 2025, 2040. The goals are there, technological solutions are basically there, demonstrations are running, but there are obviously some hindering factors to get to immediate actions, and there are barriers to go beyond demonstrations. I think the question to you, what is important to organize a transformation process towards a large-scale positive energy districts implementation? How do we organize that process, and what do we need to consider, and what steps could be taken first, in order also to not risk to lose energy security in a transformation phase? Henry, what's your perspective on that? How can we move on to through the transformation phase get into a large scale implementation of positive energy districts?
Yes, well, what we've seen is that it's very difficult to plan ahead now. We know pretty much if we have a residential area, we know we have about 14,000 people moving in. We know there's going to be a school, a shop, maybe a swimming pool, and maybe some jobs. We know just about how much heating they need. If the city owns the land, we can put in a so-called land sale contracts, so we can basically force the developer to make certain decisions. In our project, we don't have that luxury because we already have landowners who are selling the property. So we can still have these kinds of city zoning agreements, which are not so strict, but still we can use them to, let's say, push the landowners to maybe acquire more higher energy efficiency standards. But in the end, we don't have anybody who's going to put in extra money to make them extra energy efficient. This is a high capex stuff. So if you want to put in a high efficiency heating system, for example, district heating has to be in place before you start building. We need to know if it's going to be high temperature district heating, low temperature district heating, and we at the moment our district heating is the third generation, so just about 120 degrees, and if there's going to be a large-scale thermal seasonal storage, that will have to be in place as well. Who's going to pay for that? Now, what we would need is high capex support, and a location which is large enough to justify seasonal storage. The city doesn't have the money to put into seasonal storage. We have the city of Vantaa just next door. They have a 1 million cubic meter subterranean storage, which they're being built now, but it's for their own power plant, which is a waste to energy power plant. So they needed to balance the output of that. But who will pay for this? The utilities which we have, they are private companies. They will not put in their own investments, especially if it leads to a situation where the citizens take their own energy solutions. I understand, especially the district heating company will take a risk because at the moment they don't know if the residents will be joining their district heating network or not. So if the pricing doesn't go correctly, or if the price differences change in the next 5 years, it could be that they spend millions building the district heating network and none of the buildings actually join the network. That's something the city wants to avoid at all costs. So we spend a lot of efforts visioning, seeing what's going to be the most cost-effective solution in the future. And we don't have a crystal ball. I mean, if we have 15 gigawatts of wind power, then there's no point in purchasing district heating from the district heating network, because the power grid will be flooded by cheap intermittent wind power. So, I mean, demonstration, yes. Different solutions, especially in flexibility, virtual power plants. What we have at the moment, very, very promising, is these frequency containment reserves, but they are also only available for loads of 1 megawatt, not smaller. So even if I have a water boiler in my home, it's only 3 kilowatts. We need aggregators. We don't have that kind of a business model yet. And well, then in the end, all this is, let's say, we know we can make these different solutions, and there might be several different solutions which are right, but we have to go all in for one solution, and just hope we were betting on the right horse.
Yeah. Thank you, Henry. And as I see the comments in the Menti, again, it is obviously very much again on about money, financial pressure, the cost. I would also like to include here what Annelies was supposed to be in the chat, that focus on existing neighborhoods is important. And yes, it will be integrated in the PED pillar, but that is probably also one of the biggest challenges, as Petra also mentioned before, because it is very difficult to implement a positive energy district. The more dense an area is built up and the more complex the ownership structure the area is. So to deal with these challenges will be important to get over the demonstration phase, I guess, and not only have it in some current greenfield developments, but really have it as a broad development for the European cities. I'm just checking the time, and we only have 2 minutes left. So regarding the whole discussion, or kind of summing it up, and I open that to the audience in the Mentimeter, but also to our panel. What would you see as, if you could choose just a few of them? Of course, there are a lot of priorities, but what needs to be done right now? What are the immediate priorities that needs to be done for positive energy district development? Starting with Jiří.
Okay, for PSEC, we are now in the process of getting functional energy management. So basically the data, which we're still a bit missing. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest priority, that we have a data we can work with, and then somebody who will be working with it. And then we're looking to Vienna as a one of the best examples, and trying to mimic some of the standards Vienna are using.
Petra, you're from Vienna. What do you say? What are the immediate priority?
Okay, just to say, only first small steps. There is a long way to go in Vienna also. Yeah, I think everybody thinks it differently, but I think that the demonstration is very important, and to go for the next step is to go for the built environment. So the retrofitting, the transformation of an existing quarter to a PED. And I think that a PED in a new built area cannot be, or maybe, but I don't think so, cannot be the same as in an existing area or in a transformated area. But to try it out, to go the first steps, to take the money in the hand and do it and see what works and what doesn't work, and then learn from it, and then change the legal framework. So by learning on lighthouse projects, let's say, learn for the legal framework.
Thank you, Peter. Henry.
Well, I would reduce regulation. Now, I'm very convinced that technologies are there, renewable energy generation opportunities are there. We have business models on flexibility, on storage, on generation, on prosumers, blockchains are coming. The problem is now we still have the incumbents. We have companies which make their money by selling electricity, selling heat, and the monopolies are protected. I see the energy community law, the directives are pushing towards deregulation, even crushing monopolies. I think that is necessary, and we will have to face a lot of opposition from those incumbents. I hope these energy community directives are being implemented, and we are given both the financial means to replace them with citizen-owned local solutions, and the policies in place that we can do what the utilities did, just community-based.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful final sentence. I think we could talk for hours, but we have to finish now. We are already almost 2 minutes overdue. Thank you very much for the panel. I hope we will keep you in the discussion. Thank you very much for the audience in the chats, and I will again encourage you to bring in your thoughts, your comments, and your expertise into the concept board. Thank you very much for now, and I think we all have to go back to the lobby and try to make a short summary. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.